Alright, so it's been a minute since I've posted anything on this channel. I've been sick for the last 3 weeks and barely left the house, barely left my room. I started working on a new YouTube channel which is dedicated to all the things that I love besides photography, meaning comic books, stand-up comedy, movies, sci-fi, the comedy stuff is 18 and up, but the channel is called Lightning Culture. I'll post a link to it below if you want to check it out. Please do. I'm very proud of a lot of stuff that I've been doing on there. I understand comic books isn't, everybody's thing, but I think a lot of what I've been doing is interesting. I've been doing stuff with my friend Travis Hemel, who's an amazing artist, and my buddy Kyle Smith, who is one of the best stand-ups I've ever seen to come out of I'd say the Gulf Coast. Anyway, so what am I doing here? So since I've been cooped up, I've been unable to really go out as much, but I've really, like I said, barely left my room. Frono's Photo, Jared Poland, and Peter McKinnon both posted photography challenges. Froze is a 7-day challenge, and Peter McKinnon's only done one so far. He's calling his PM photo assignments. And what I thought I'd do is walk you through what I've done so far. On Froze, let's see, how many days? Through day 5. So I got 2 days left. And some of these assignments were really easy, stuff I do all the time. Some of them are really hard. Starting with Fro's first day assignment, which is self-portraits. And this, for me, was one of the hardest by a lot. Self-portraits, it's so funny, we live in this selfie culture, and I won't pretend that I've never took, I hate calling it that, but it's selfie. But, selfies and self-portraits are so different, because a selfie is literally just take your camera, click, whatever. You just find the right angle, whatever it is. Self-portraits, sometimes I've taken headshots of myself, and those aren't easy either, but as a photographer, setting up your equipment, finding the right angle is not as easy when you don't have the camera right there in your hand. And as a photographer, you expect more of yourself. And I have to say, for most of these assignments, I've been using my A6400. A couple of them I used my A7 III. But I couldn't have done the self-portrait ones without the advent of Sony technology. Like, if I had my old Nikon, it would have taken me hours to do these assignments. The reason being that I can connect directly my phone to the camera and do a remote shutter that way and see what I'm looking at, what the photo I'm about to take, using the smartphone connect. And it's pretty awesome. And definitely this still took time, but it was more about the art than it is constantly having to change the settings, change the angle, change the lighting, and then check it. It would have taken a lot longer. Anyway, so let's get started. Alright, so obviously this is a completely different day. The first time that I attempted to record this, there was a software problem, and basically the screen was frozen the entire time I was talking. Hopefully that won't happen this time. So, like I said, the first Fro challenge was self-portraits, and I really struggled with this one. I went through a lot of different iterations, which we'll go through. We're going to start with this one. And I like this photo for the most part. Obviously I have really bad skin. I'm not going to zoom in on that, you don't need to see that. There are a few technical problems. I don't like the fact that my chest drawer is here, and my Empire Strikes Back, like I can't talk, poster is in the frame as well. But I wasn't going to remove those things, and it's not super distracting. It's just from a technical aspect, it's a little annoying. And I did cut off the top. It's cropped in. Later on, I purposely put the camera in a very close, claustrophobic. We'll get to that one later. But this one, I can't pretend that this was on purpose. The thing is, I don't have a lot of space. Like I said, I've been locked in this room for weeks, and the amount of space between my entertainment center and my sofa, which I'm sitting on, are very limited, and this was really the only good spot to sit that would be for, photogenic at all. It's not too bad. It just, ideally, maybe the camera could have been a little bit north of there. But I'm wearing my hat here, and I've had people on this channel trash me in the comments, and you know what? You can kiss my ass. This is who I am. I don't wear this hat all the time, but it's a lot of who I am is in this hat, and I don't believe you should ever be ashamed of who you are or change for other people. That said, this wasn't the first self-portrait that I took. And honestly, I'm going to post this today. Because the reason I didn't post this one as my self-portrait was because I was kind of embarrassed. It's a little silly, it's a little pretentious, but honestly, so am I, realistically. But I actually like this self-portrait. It's, I grew up loving stories of samurai and, ninja, which turns out ninja weren't great people. And I grew up loving swords. This is my sword. And my first artistic photo I ever took was like 2006 or something like that, and it was a close-up of me holding this sword, and this reminded me of that. But I really like this photo. Actually, it's got the same problem of my chest of drawers here. This could have been removed, and then you can actually see more of my Empire Strikes Back poster right there. But other than that, and it is what it is. And I do try to go for symmetry, and this isn't super distracting. It's not great, but it's not super distracting. But obviously the camera is not designed, but I intentionally wanted this in focus. I tend to shoot wide open, not always, but I just prefer to shoot wide open. So here, I think this is all natural light. So I'm shooting f1.8, 1/50th of a second, and it's my face is actually a little obscure, and but this is all intentional. This was the first one that I posted, and it's fine. The pose is fine. The colors I like. This one also, my face is a little obscured, even though it's in focus. But yeah, even though these both actually me, I don't know. I felt like they weren't creative enough. So then I attempted this, which is more exemplary of what's been going on. Still using this. I've been using for the all of the other two photos, my 20mm f1.8G lens, because I wanted like a wider angle specifically on this shot and the next one. Couldn't quite figure out the angle though. This is one of my favorite books, Starman. Like I said earlier, I have another YouTube channel called Lightning Culture. If you're into pop culture at all, please go check it out. But yeah, there's nothing about this shot that I like. Everything's just wrong. So I tried another angle where I moved. This is a better shot, but it still wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. It's just like I said, I don't have a lot of space, so there's only so many angles I could have shot from as a taking a self-portrait. If I was taking a picture of someone else, I might have actually been able to make this shot work from what I had in my head. And I did have a shot in my head that I was trying to convey, but I just couldn't make it work, and I gave up. So we're gonna jump to the next day, or a couple days later, when I tried again. I went for still shooting with the 20mm. That was a mistake in this case, because my man breasts look huge. Not manly at all, in fact. But I went for something different. I have this gas mask that I bought in Army surplus. There's an old World War II character called the Sandman, Wesley Dodds, and I always loved the design. He's in a suit and a trench coat and a fedora and a World War II era gas mask. And one year I went as Wesley Dodds for Halloween. And so I've had this gas mask for years. And I thought it was appropriate for what's been going on. So I figured, alright, well, let's try it this way. This shot does not work at all. It just doesn't work. This one's better. This one works more. There's less symmetry because of the angle of my head, but the dead on, this is terrible. This is terrible. This works a lot more. Although again, man boobs, way too big. But I do like this shot. I still wasn't quite pleased with it though, and so it ended up being like the next night at 2 in the morning, I shot this one. And this was ultimately, as far as self-portraits, this was the one that I ended up really liking, and I posted this. So there's a few things going on here. First of all, I mentioned earlier, this one was intentionally shot to feel close up and claustrophobic. Now granted, I probably should have lowered the camera a bit. It would have been nice if it cut off here, but it's not that noticeable. It's just something that kind of bothers me. So there's a few elements going on. Like I said, the claustrophobia is meant to represent like how it feels right now, being cooped up in one room. I'm holding, I incorporated different elements from the previous self-portraits. They all kind of led me to this. In this one, I'm holding a book called Sandman Overture, which is a reference to what I mentioned earlier, the character of the Sandman. This isn't the same Sandman, although it takes place in the same universe. It's another DC comic book. But this Sandman is the physical embodiment of dreams. And the reason I grabbed it was, the first reason I thought to grab it was because it's actually my favorite artist in the world, J.H. Williams III, drew this. But I thought, about the symbolism. Again, Sandman, it's a reference to the mask. But this all sort of feels like a bad dream, So, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, hey, maybe it's silly, maybe it's a little pretentious, but I am who I am. But I really like this shot. Do need to mention the specs. So, shooting at ISO 5000, 35 millimeters. I switched to my my Tamron 28-75. So actually, no, zooming in wouldn't have helped because it would have cropped more here. But there's a little bit of artificial light going on here, but I didn't want to make my setup too complicated, because again, this is at 3 in the morning. I just woke up in the middle of the night, or actually it's 2:48 in the morning, so almost 3. I didn't want to make my setup too complicated. Just wanted to I woke up in the middle of the night, had this idea, and just wanted to fulfill it. And I really couldn't have done any of these shots without my Sony cams. This one's actually shot on my A7 III. The previous ones I was shooting on the A6400. But the use of the Sony Connect to remotely control my camera really made this possible, for one thing. Yeah, I mean, I know in the past people had used remote shutters, but this allowed me to see on my phone what was going on. And like, so in this shot, my phone's right, in the book where it's out of frame, so I could be, I'm not actually reading the book, obviously. I'm looking at the phone like, alright, try this. But I mean, it took what would be hours of work and made it like half hours of work. Also, shooting at ISO 5000, my old Nikon D7100, not a bad camera. I do recommend it, but if I'd shot at 5000 ISO on that Nikon, this photo would not have. It would suck. It would be way too noisy. But yeah, so I like this photo. This is what I ultimately went with. The next photo challenge was a macro challenge, and I do not own a macro lens. I'd like to one day. I'm broke right now. Please hire me. So instead of a macro lens, I just used my Tamron 28-75 as a zoom lens, and I'm a big Disney fan, and obviously a comic book fan, so I decided to go with my Disney Infinity figures. I found on YouTube a channel that has 10 hours uploaded of the American flag waving, which I wasn't looking for 10 hours, but I was looking for the American flag. So what I did was I put that on my TV. I stacked a bunch of, people call them graphic novels now, but they're comic books, hardcover editions. This is Midnight Nation by J. Michael Straczynski. Highly recommended. It's not a superhero book, but one of my favorite books, and actually very relevant right now. But so then I put my Captain America Age of Ultron figure on top of it. I love the reflection here. That's really, like, his face is so-so, but the reflection of Captain America's shield. The reason I didn't go with this photo was, number one, so I'm shooting at f4.5. This should have been at least f8. It's a little fuzzier around the face. Also, the fact that there was no way to obscure the base for this particular shot, I didn't like. Same thing here. Also shot at f4.5. It's a little less in focus. It's not, it's not bad, but it's not as sharp as the other elements of the photo. And again, don't like the base in the frame. So, switch to landscape. And this is ultimately the photo that I went with, but I cut out the base. It's a lot more zoomed into the American flag. Great symmetry. Overall, love this shot. You don't have to have a macro lens to do macro style photos, and this one really worked. I tried in different angle the coloring didn't quite work here. I was using an artificial. I think I was using a Lume Cube, which I do not recommend. Lume Cubes, they have their uses, but they're very limited. I usually do like to. I don't always like center frame. I like to, go with thirds. This one I also should have cut the base out, but doesn't matter. Ultimately, this was the photo I decided to go with. This one was probably the easiest one. As soon as I thought about it, I just because I have a lot of like minifigures and statues. I'm like, all right, well, what do I want to go with? And all right, let's make it about America. I love America, so this one didn't take long at all. The next one took an insanely long amount of time. This was Frono's Photos Movie Challenge, and I gotta say, so basically the idea was he wanted a picture of you watching a film and specifically looking for great cinematography. And the problem I have two TVs. I have the one that I'm using as a monitor, and initially that's the one that I tried to attempts. And I shouldn't have deleted all the attempts for this challenge, but I hated the angles. Like I said, I'm cramped in here. There's only so many angles. I mean, I guess I could have taken a TV down and moved it somewhere and tried to set something up, but I wanted it to be the environment that I'm in instead of faking everything. This is not the shot that I went with. As you can see, I didn't correct the colors or anything like that. I decided to go with Raiders of the Lost Ark. I tried a couple different scenes, but ultimately the scene of Indiana Jones in the famous scene where a swordsman comes out and he pulls out a gun. There's a very famous story about this scene. Harrison Ford and the entire crew had food poisoning, so the gun thing wasn't even planned. He was supposed to have an actual sword fight, and that was the only day they could shoot this, and there was no way you could have a sword fight. So they're like, oh, what if he just pulls out a gun and shoots him? And it ended up being very iconic. This shooting these was very hard because I'm actually sitting on a chair here in front of my sofa with my knees bucked up against the entertainment center. But in order to get the shot that I wanted, which was, that's the other thing. So this is the shot that I went. Wait, is this the shot that I went with, or is I think this is the shot that I want. Yes. Okay. Because the other one was too blown out. So I wanted, obviously, Spielberg, great director. Not always great films, but great director. The shot isn't flat angle. It's over Indy's shoulder. So I wanted the symmetry of the cameras over my shoulder. And it's not completely symmetric, but it works, in my opinion. So I had to set the camera up on a tripod on my sofa. Thankfully, it didn't fall over or anything like that. But it was the only way I could get this shot, and it worked. It took forever. I normally shoot in single shot mode, but this one I had to put it on burst mode because obviously it had to be on a timer, and if you pause it for too long, all the information comes up, and I didn't want that. I wanted a clean image of the shot. So I would have to hit play, turn it on both, and just hope that I got the shot that I wanted, not for me, but for the movie. I'm actually fine with a lot of what's going on here. The only thing that sucks is I have a I gotta take care of that. I got sent one of those Trapicam tickets, and you know, considering what's going on right now, it's actually absolutely insane to me that the city of New Orleans is sending out these stupid. I was going like 8 miles over the speed limit or something like that. Anyway, so the next challenge was I'm pretty happy with this overall. Next challenge was wide open versus closed down. As I mentioned earlier, I tend to shoot wide open. Oh, real quick. Also, this one was 3200 ISO. I was using artificial light, but not a lot. This was also taken at. Oh, this one was taken at 8 p.m. Okay, well, anyway. So jumping back. I tend to shoot wide open, and I know the difference between wide open and closed down. There's a reason, you know, that I shoot it. I just prefer, and it depends on what it is. If it's landscape, I'm not shooting completely wide open. You want most of the, and I do shoot landscape now quite a lot. Decided to set up my Disney Infinity figures in a specific. I was trying to go as wide as possible on this, and it didn't quite work. For the shot that I had in my head, this is the 20mm f1.8G on my A7 III, so it's pretty wide. It's got the wide distortion that I wanted, but not enough. I needed like an even shorter lens to. The shot that I had actually would have all of my figures, and I could have backed up, but when I tried that, it just got too much of everything outside of these figures, you know, and it just didn't quite work. So a couple of attempts at this, that's closed down, so everything's in frame, you know. Horrible shot though, not proud at all. So ultimately I tried it from this angle. You know, this frame is in there, it doesn't completely ruin it. This is closed down, and yeah, you get a good number of my Disney Infinity figures. The shot kind of works, not great, but ultimately wide open wins. Wide open completely blows this out of the water. This isn't a shot that I would be happy posting. It's just a random shot of figures. Whereas this is a lot more dynamic. It focuses mainly on Luke and Leia. Mickey's here. I do kind of like that Merida's hidden behind Mickey, kind of peering out over his ear. Yeah. This one was probably the easiest. Like, I knew what I wanted to do immediately, and just went for it. Okay. So speaking of silly and pretentious, so this one was actually the Peter McKinnon's PM photo assignment, and the idea was isolation. I wasn't sure about whether or not I should post this one, just because I had the idea in my head, but obviously it invokes, you know, the idea of suicide, and that's. You know, but this is kind of what being stuck here for all these weeks has felt like. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not thinking about killing myself. You know, please don't misinterpret this. But yeah, the sword was laying there, and it made me think of, this isn't the right kind of sword. You know, samurais used to kill themselves, like ritualistic honor suicide if they failed. So the symbolism was actually wrong. It's not the right type of sword. The swords they used to kill themselves were a lot shorter. So a friend of mine said, like, don't cut off your, you know, you get it. When he saw the photo, it's executed similar to how I wanted. Like, I'm not, the colors aren't quite what I want. And there's my trash can. It's not super noticeable, but all this should have been cleared out. You know, I don't think you should fake. Well, let me rephrase that. So it's fine if you fake fake a room, to get an angle and move stuff. But you should always be thinking about like what's in the background and clearing things out, like, because this shouldn't be there. I'm more or less happy with the photo. There was a couple of other attempts, but my jowls were very prominent in those photos. So that's what I went with. Not the greatest, but I'm not unhappy with it. The next assignment, the last one that I did, was reflection. And so initially I tried to do another, basically, so what's funny is, so when I did this shot, I thought like, oh, this is actually usable as the reflection one. However, later on I saw this really cool video where, so this is a black service obviously, but this is a book. Somebody put a flat surface above level on their TV so that you couldn't tell it was a TV, and they put a picture of a landscape with a body of water, and they poured water on the black surface so that there was reflection, and they put like an action figure. So it was very similar to what I was doing, except it involved water, and I was like, man, that's really cool, I want to do that. However, when I attempted that, I did not have a flat enough surface, and the water spilled everywhere, and took a while to clean up. So after like 5 or 6 attempts at this, I just said, okay, I'm going to go with something easier, and I went out to water and reflected. And this can also be the wide open versus closed down challenge. I'm shooting wide open here at f1.8, but I like trying both black and white and color. Also f1.8, let's see. So, but ultimately, I want to do a long exposure for this. So, let's see. So this is f8. So not completely closed down, but more closed down at 8 seconds. And I'm pretty happy with this. One thing to note about these photos is, great, is there's people. So, on the longer exposure, there's some ghosting. So decided to do a photo merge. You can actually see the ghosting more right there. This is a, what do you call it? A photo merge, HDR. Sorry, brain fart. I'm hungry. We're almost done here though. But yeah, so you get the reflection. Pretty pleased with this. Nice shot. There's a couple different versions of it. Like this shot, the HDR one's a little better because you get, the brightness around here and all that. Took this shot on a whim because sometimes you're walking by and you see like a cool angle on something, and I just I really like this. Even though the horizon's not level, the flowers are, so not everything has to be perfect in my opinion. Reason I didn't go with this, even though I like this shot, is I hate the cars. It's amazing how much, as much as I appreciate modernity, like so much of like nature and beauty is like ruined by just it's random cars. Well, it's not random, that's my car, but there's a reflection here. I like the symmetry. It's a nice sunset. Part of it's a little bit blown out, but that's okay, what you can do. The alternative is this, and the cars are less noticeable here, but it's just way too dark. So ultimately, I went with either this or this one. But yeah, anyway, so I haven't done the next Fro challenge, which is going to be, I was trying to do it daily, but just fell off. The next one is the Don't Move challenge, where you're supposed to sit in one spot and just look around and don't move for I don't know, like 10 minutes until you see something interesting and you shoot it. I haven't done that one yet, and I think the next PM photo assignment is contrast or something similar to that. So I haven't attempted that, and I actually don't have any ideas for that one just yet. But thank you for watching this. I hope it's been interesting. I don't know. But please, if you do like it, subscribe. I'm gonna have a link to my art photography, landscapes, and what have you down below. If you want to support my work, check it out. If you like something, buy it. I don't make a lot of money off that, but hey, money's money. And if you get something out of it, more is the better. Yeah. Anything else? Oh, check out Lightning Culture again. It's not just comic books, it's comedy. It's talk about movies. We just posted a movie video, although it is about a comic character, Spider-Man. Yeah, so thank you, and good night.